This video is brought to you by Ann Tichotsky from Mr. Johnson's class in Romig for National History Month. What would happen if Alaska was never bought from Russia? Would life be the same as today, or would everything be different? On March 30th, 1867, the U.S. bought Alaska from Russia to make an alliance and make some profit. The purchase of Russian America was due to the Russian government being weakened from the Crimean War. Instead of losing Russian America to Britain, Russia sold Russian America to the U.S. for cheap. Russian America was first obtained by Russia by help from Baranov for trade. For 125 years, Russia owned Russian America and traded throughout the world. Unfortunately, under the Russians' power, the Aleut and Tlingit native people were enslaved and made to harvest fur seals and hunt sea otters. During the Crimean War, however, Canadian trappers were slowly infiltrating Russian America. In the end, America obtained Russian America in a deal, and now Russian America is a part of the United States. For Russian America to be obtained by the United States, many people had to be involved. Like on the Russian side, there was Tsar Alexander II of Russia, who agreed to the sale. Grand Duke Constantine, the Tsar's younger brother, who brought the proposal forward to Tsar as early as 1857. Baron Edward D. Stokel, the Russian ambassador to the U.S. Russian former minister Prince Alexander Gorchakov, Count Nikolai Mursky, a former governor of East Siberia, explorer, and a diplomat. Peter Kosnivinov, a Russian America Company official and a governor of Russia, California. Alexander Baranov was a former governor in Russian America. On America's side, there was Secretary of State William H. Seward, who gets most of the credit for pushing the sale through. President Andrew Johnson, who submitted the signed treaty for congressional approval. Senator Charles Sumner of Massachusetts and head of the Foreign Relations Committee gave a 3-hour speech and helped pass the treaty. Union General Lovell Roosevelt, a member of the House of Representatives, who would serve a key role as the senior military officer in Alaska during transfer. U.S. Senator to Russia Cassius M. Clay, an abolitionist, former senator from Kentucky, Union General, and Lincoln ally. The Crimean War lasted from October 5, 1853 until March 30, 1856. The war included an alliance of Britain, France, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia against Russia. The war started when Russia demanded to exercise protection over the Orthodox subjects of the Ottoman Sultan. Throughout the 3 years, there were 3 main battles fought. The Battle of Alma is considered the first battle of the Crimean War. The Battle of Alma was on September 20, 1854, in Crimea, Sevastopol, Ukraine. The Battle of Alma was a battle between Britain and Russia. In the end, the Battle of Alma, the Allies won. The Battle of Balaclava took place on the 25th of October, 1854, in Balaclava. During the Battle of Balaclava, Britain was trying to keep control of Balaclava, but due to a mistake, many British cavalry were killed. Although Britain kept Balaclava, the victory was mainly given to Russia because of how many people Britain lost. Last but not least is the Russian attack in Inkerman, which happened during the 5th of November, 1854, in Inkerman, a village southern Crimea. The battle was with allies of Britain and France against a trade agreement. In the end, Russia was deemed to be weaker than the Allies expected because they lost. During the Crimean War, America was determined to stay out of the war, but helped their Russian pals obtain supplies. Russia had many plans for Russian America. In the beginning, Russia wanted Russian America for the sea otter pelts it had to offer. Peter Kosminov built up regular trade with Russian America for Russia. The Russians said they would sell Russian America in 1854 because of their financial dilemma and the need for money to finance the Crimean War. Alexander Gorchakov, a former minister of the Russian Empire, told Baron Edward D. Stokel, Russian ambassador to the U.S., to push Washington, D.C. in favor of buying. Nikolai Minilov was a Russian politician and felt Alaska should be sold because of how difficult it was to maintain. Prince Gorshakov saw no political necessity in selling Alaska and said he would only sell if he knew what the United States was going to pay. Russia made a great deal of money even though it wasn't everything they wanted. Russia wasn't too pleased with selling, but it was better than losing everything they had in Russian America. Prior to the Civil War, America was thinking about buying Russian America, but the Civil War delayed negotiations. However, Cassius Marcellus Clay, an abolitionist senator from Kentucky, became an ambassador to Russia in March of 1861 until 1862, when he was called back to the commission as a brigadier general. One of the conditions Clay made to become one of Lincoln's generals was that Lincoln put forth an Emancipation Proclamation. Clay had witnessed Tsar Alexander II free the serfs in 1861. Something also important is that Russia supported the Union while Britain supported the Confederacy. I have discovered that the purchase of Alaska was very much tied to the politics of slavery and the Civil War. This is not talked about in most history books, and I do not know why Cassius Clay is not credited as a key person in the purchase of Alaska by the U.S. To persuade the United States to buy Russian America, Charles Sumner made a speech. This speech was made on April 8, 1867, and contained details about Alaska, such as resources and temperature. Sumner first makes points on temperature and how cold Russian America is. Secondly, Sumner talks about the natural resources that Russian America has. Natural resources such as spruce and fir trees, minerals and ores, exclusive furs like black fox and sea otter, and a plethora of fish, and unlike any they have ever seen. Sumner talks about the alliance that can be made between the United States and Russia. Sumner proposes a new name. Sumner makes a great argument on how the name should be Alaska. It is justifiable for this purpose, and they would take the name from Captain James Hook, the illustrator navigator. Lastly, Sumner goes over the price of what they have to pay for Alaska and the history behind it. I interviewed Catherine Arndt, a professor at the University of Alaska Fairbanks and a leading expert on Russian America, and they answered some of my questions and gave me more answers. My first question was the British forcing their way into Russian America a real threat to Russia holding on to Russian America? They said that the British were not really a problem. The Russians' only concern was uncontrolled gold miners coming into Russian America. Russia, of course, did not want to sell to Britain because at the time they were enemies. I next asked, was Russia justified in taking over Crimea in 2014? Could Russia use the same way of thinking to take Alaska? Catherine Arndt responds that there are some people in Russia who think that Russia leased Alaska to the United States, but of course there is proof of the actual purchase of the state. On March 30th, 1867, Russian America was finally bought by America with a treaty with Russia purchasing Russian America territories for the $7.2 million for the whole thing. Russian America was bought by Alaska for about 0.07 cents per mile. On October 18, 1867, Alaska was formally transferred from Russia to American control at Sitka, Alaska. The House of Representatives approved funding for the purchase of Russia by a vote of 113 to 48 on July 14, 1868. Finally, in spring 1899, the Nome Gold Rush began producing enough gold to vindicate Seward's push to purchase Alaska. Now Alaska has been owned by America for 155 years. Even today, there are remainders of Russians' past influence in Alaska. There are more than 40 Russian Orthodox churches in places like Anchorage, Sitka, Juneau, Dutch Harbor, and other Alaskan villages. More than 700 place names in Alaska are from Russian Alaska days, like Baranof Island and Point Woronzof. If America never bought Alaska from the Russians, we would have never got the resources we have today. Most of the oil would have been under Russia's grasp, and we would never had the money we got from selling oil. We would be less rich because of all the gold that we got from Alaska, and much of our exclusive trading supplies from Alaska would have been Russian-owned.